Assalamu alaikum class. Well, in today's lecture is going to be on Toni Morrison, and we are going to look at her life and works. Along with that, we are also going to watch two clips. One is part of an interview of Toni Morrison जो हमने एक Google से लिया है और उसका जो interview का सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक small सा part है. So the second video is about the discrimination that Black women they have to face in their daily life, and they are sharing that. And then we also, if we get a time, we are also going to watch the trailer together of Toni Morrison, the pieces I am, I think that is the name. तो उसके बाद जी हम जो है लेक्चर के अंदर we will try to read an article which is Toni Morrison American Black writing, and we are going to see that as an American Black writer, what are the major characteristics that characterize her work and how has the world received that work. And we are also going to bring in the discussion that how Toni Morrison's work about racial discrimination and segregation that Black people have to go through in their everyday life. Do we see such parallels in our society, like in a country that is part of South Asia named Pakistan? Do we see such parallels here? And then we are going to stretch to the discussion to the idea that this racial discrimination or the practice of looking down upon certain group of people, be it a race or an ethnic group or a religious minority, is something that is so prevalent, and how can we overcome all these things. So can you please help me know that is the audio coming as fine? Is there any echo or distortion? Okay, so Toni Morrison के बारे में जो अच्छा, we are first going to start with a brief look at her life. When was she born? Where was she born? Or then we are going to get a little introduction के where has been she schooled, उसका education जो है उनका जो है life span उसके बारे में. And then we are going to see, has there been any racial discrimination she faced during her school time or university time? And then this way we are going to read further, और हम फिर उसके बाद एक class discussion के हवाले से, and definitely the medium that we are connecting जिसके साथ हम connect कर रहे हैं, so इस medium के ज़रिए से you can participate in the class via text messages, by messages in the live chat. So or फिर try to be concise. I think that will also be a practice, how to be concise and how to write in few words. अच्छा जी, तो Toni Morrison के बारे में, she was born in February 18, 1931, and she or till August 5, 2019 जो इनका time period है. So it has been around about 1.5 year the world has lost such a gem. So her name was Chloe Anthony Walcott Morrison. She adopted this name Toni while she was in college. And is she only a novelist? No, she was not only a novelist but also an essayist, book editor. She was a college professor as well. Birthplace है Ohio जो है, it's a state in America. So she has won many awards. Like there is a huge list of awards. If you go to Google and just type achievements of Morrison, so there comes a very long list of achievements which is very praiseworthy. The impact she made on the world was gigantic. The writing was superb. It was so energetic, and the world was kind of amazed that how comes a Black American woman writing such writing so energetically and making such a gigantic impact. So she is the first and the only Black American woman to have received Nobel Prize, and among women she comes on 8th number. 8वें नंबर पे जी आती हैं। अच्छा, स्लाइड्स की क्लैरिटी की जहाँ तक बात है तो मैं इसको अभी ट्राई टू प्लीज़ बेयर विद इट। आई ट्राई टू गो टू सेटिंग एंड सी इफ़ आई कैन चेंज रेजोल्यूशन। शी बिगेन विद हार्वर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी। अच्छा, उनका जो फर्स्ट जो है इट वाज टेक्सास साउदर्न यूनिवर्सिटी एंड देन शी मूव टू हार्वर्ड। अच्छा, लिटरेरी अगर हम इनकी जीनियस की बात करते हैं तो लिटरेरी करियर की बात करते हैं तो अराउंड अबाउट 11 novels शी हैज़ रिटन 11 novels and all of those novels are kind of a success. और उसके जो नॉवल है बिलवर्ड एंड देन जैज द ब्लूएस्ट आई, these are the three novels which जो कि बहुत डिस्टिंक्शन उन्होंने हासिल की। अच्छा, हमारे जो the novel that are part of our syllabus, these are the beloved and jazz and jazz की रीडिंग तो आप लोगों को असाइन मैं कर चुकी थी ना। आई होप सो यू ऑल आर डन विद द रीडिंग। तो अच्छा, फिर लिटरेरी करियर की हम बात करते हैं तो जो ब्लूएस्ट आई व्हेन इट वाज पब्लिश तो जो उसका प्रॉब्लम्स थे, शी couldn't get a good publisher. That is how she was embraced by the world, which was so overwhelmingly dominated by the white writers. And as a writer, the kind of discrimination that she faced, you can, if you try to read it more, then you will realize that how segregated the society was that she was part of. And then you will realize that America, a place which was unanimously agreed upon as a place where people coming from different geographical locations treated it as a kind of place which was a new world to them, as a world which was giving them more freedom. More freedom in terms of, because the people who came to this place, जो आए first is 1700 के बिल्कुल start के अंदर जो colonies बनना शुरू हुई. So these were the people who were coming from different geographical location because they were facing certain oppression and suppressions there. रिलीजियस किसी को इश्यूज थे, किसी को इकोनॉमिकल इश्यूज थे, किसी को पॉलिटिकल से के अंदर इशू था. सो ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स टुगेदर क्रिएटेड दिस न्यू वर्ल्ड. बट वंस दिस वर्ल्ड जो अमेरिका, जिसको हम लैंड ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ भी कहते हैं, so here the segregation and the racial discrimination that a black person has to go through the moment you start reading it, it is something that is horrific. So Morrison, when she starts writing about such experiences like the novel The Bluest Eye, it depicts the beauty standards that white domination has brought forward. And as a black person, as a black person, the जो है उसकी जो heroine है, how many traumas she has to go through in order to adjust herself in that society. So what is she bringing forward is the idea that with segregation or racial discrimination comes so many forms of depression, psychological issues leading to cultural crises. And she talks about the idea of race, arguing that race is something which is part and parcel of every individual. And in the interview that I'm going to just play in 1 or 2 minutes, you will see that as she says that race is something that every person जो है, it gives an identity to that person. The moment you take you just snatch somebody's identity in terms of the race that person belongs to, you are left with nothing. And there is a very beautifully put remark. She says that if you are getting taller by putting somebody's on your knees, then there's something very wrong with yourself. And it is the white person who has something very, very wrong, and they need to figure it out. How can they overcome it? So it is not just with the white people. You can stretch this idea to your own state. साउथ एशियन स्टेट के अंदर अगर आप देखें, आप अपने पाकिस्तान के अंदर देखिए, आप अगर स्कोर नैरो डाउन करते हैं, look at योर लोकेलिटी, आप लोगों के अपने सिटी के अंदर, आप लोगों के अपने जो है एरिया के अंदर, यू विल सी दैट हाउ द क्रिश्चियन पीपल दे आर बीइंग सेग्रीगेटेड अगेंस्ट, नॉट जस्ट द क्रिश्चियन, देयर आर रिलीजियस माइनॉरिटीज़ लाइक शिया माइनॉरिटीज़ हैं, हज़ारास हैं हमारे पास. So how are we treating them then? So this is something, this segregation based on somebody's religion, ethnicity and race is it's so universally prevalent. But Morrison, when as a black person writes, it becomes it becomes a distinction because of the power she gives to words. और ये बहुत important point है. With Morrison, the quality of the work lies in the recognition of the writer that the words have power. और जो आपका जो ट्रेलर है उसका मॉरिसन का, द पीसेस आई एम, टॉनी मॉरिसन द पीसेस आई एम, इन दैट ट्रेलर के अंदर भी वो उसके अंदर ऐड करते हैं. मॉरिसन सेज दैट माई, शी टॉक्स अबाउट हर ग्रैंडफादर एंड द वे ही वाज वेल read in Bible, and she said that I realized since my childhood that the words have power. So that's how she started, and being in touch with the folklore and जो cultural जो particularities हैं black culture की, the more she was familiar with that and the discrimination she saw around, she started writing about it. And she said, and she says, and आपने post colonial literature के अंदर भी आप इसको देखेंगे, it's very important the resistance that a black person, or be it a black or any other कोई भी person जो इसको segregate किया जा रहा है, जिसको exclude किया जा रहा है mainstream से, or what is the role of literature in that? How is literature substantiating certain form of domination and other form of subordination? It has its role. So when Morrison writes about these things, she is challenging the notion that literature is always talking about truth. और ये जो आर्टिकल मैं आपसे कह रही हूँ कि वी आर ऑल्सो गोइंग टू रीड एन आर्टिकल नेम्ड टॉनी मॉरिसन, और जो ब्लैक राइटिंग के बारे में हम देखेंगे. तो it is how Morrison as a writer is challenging this notion that what is written is not truth. There is an alternate reality. There is a counter narrative as well that we have to establish. First, black have to establish the counter narrative. ये point clear हो रहा है आपको? अरीज गफ्फार, माहीन. The presence of counter narrative is important, and she invokes the black people around to bring forward their counter narratives to contest the dominant discourse, by virtue of which they are being perceived as intellectually deprived, culturally barren. So, and Morrison as a writer is endorsed because of the impact she made on the fellow writers as well. And I would recommend कि आप जाएं गूगल के ऊपर टाइप करें कि मॉरिसन के बारे में व्यू पॉइंट्स जो आए. न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स पब्लिश्ड अ ह्यूज लॉन्ग लिस्ट ऑफ जो कि उनके मॉरिसन की डेथ के ऊपर राइटर्स केम फॉरवर्ड एंड दे टॉक्ड अबाउट दैट, एंड यू विल फिगर इट आउट दैट one thing that runs constantly in 3 and 4 writers' statements about Morrison and in praise of Morrison are, in fact, these statements belong to the fact that Morrison encouraged the other fellow writers to write, and especially the black writers. Maheen Zia, can you hear me? Thank you. With this YouTube medium, yeah, there is always a delay around about 15 seconds. between your message sent and message received. Better the quality of internet at your side, the faster I'll get to read your statements. So it's fine अगर आपको लगता है कि आपका मैसेज देर से जा रहा है, it is something with the server. अच्छा जी, I am about to play Morrison's interview. So अच्छा, यहाँ से जब मैं ऐड कर दूँगी ना इसका सोर्स, तो इट विल प्ले इंस्टेंटली. तो आप लोग जो हैं इसके साथ इसमें और ऑडियो भी आपको आएगी. सो आई होप यू गेट अ गुड एक्सपीरियंस विद दिस. एंड आई ऑल्सो रिकमेंड कि आप लोग जो है ना क्लास, जो हमारा टाइम एंड होने वाला है, तो नेक्स्ट क्लास में तो हम खुद से जो क्लास में करेंगे, प्रोवाइडेड द लिमिटेड टाइम वी हैव, वी विल नॉट गेट दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी कि उसको बहुत ही ज़्यादा हम डिटेल में कर पाएंगे इंटरव्यूज़ के एक एक पार्ट को. इस इंटरव्यू की बात नहीं कर रही हूँ हम, जो रिटन इंटरव्यूज़ मॉरिसन हैज़ गिवन ऑफन, उनमें से हम कोई एक या दो सिलेक्ट करेंगे ताकि हम उसके बारे में देख सकें व्हाट हैज़ मॉरिसन टू से अबाउट राइटिंग, what has to say about the subject matter. तो यहाँ पे इन दिस ये जो क्लिप हम चलाएंगे विच इज़ अ कंपाइलेशन ऑफ 2 and 3 इंटरव्यूज़, एंड उन तीनों चारों इंटरव्यूज़ के अंदर कंपाइल किया गया है हर स्टेटमेंट ऑन रेसिज्म. सो यहाँ पे भी आप उसको कंपेयर करें एंड देखें कि वो what has she to say about the topic. अच्छा जी, ये प्ले हो जाएगा इंस्टेंटली. तो आप लोग अपनी वॉइस माइक्स की करें ओपन.
There is no such thing as race. None.
Really?
There's just a human race. Scientifically, anthropologically, racism is a construct, a social construct, and it has benefits. It has money can be made off of it, and people who don't like themselves can feel better because of it. It can describe certain kinds of behavior that are wrong or misleading. So it has a social function, racism. But race can be defined as a human. In a substantial way, you can't understand how powerfully racist that question is, can you? Logically, racism is a construct, a social construct, and it has benefits. It has money can be made off of it. And people who don't like themselves can feel better because of it. It can describe certain kinds of behavior that are wrong or misleading. So it has a social function, racism. But race can only be defined as a human being.
If the racist white person, I don't mean the person who is examining his consciousness and so on, doesn't understand that he or she is also a race, it's also constructed, it's also made, and it also has some kind of serviceability. But when you take it away, I take your race away. And there you are, all strung out, and all you got is your little self. And what is that? What are you without racism? Are you any good? Are you still strong? You still smart? You still like yourself? If you can only be tall because somebody's on their knees, then you have a serious problem. And my feeling is white people have a very, very serious problem. And they should start thinking about what they can do about it. Take me out of it.
You don't think you will ever change and write books that incorporate white lives into them substantially?
I have done.
In a substantial way?
You can't understand how powerfully racist that question is, can you? Because you could never ask a white author, when are you going to write about black people? Whether he did or not, or she did or not. Even the inquiry comes from a position of being in the center.
And being used to being in the center.
And being used to being in the center.
So, can you please help me know that how was the sound quality at your end? Can you hear what she was saying? Acha. So I hope that you people enjoyed this new experience with this virtual medium, that we can also watch certain clips, we can hear them, and that's how I intend to build up your interest with writing, which is indeed very beautifully put. But I want my students to read Morrison out of the interest, not just as a compulsion that you have to prepare her or her novel or any other work, considering that you have to score good grades in your examination. So as we are running short of the time, I would say that in your next class we are also going to see that what Morrison is saying, that in terms of the racial discrimination that American Black have to go through in their daily lives. And then she you have in it just skipped my mind what was I saying. तो अच्छा जी, मैं ये कह रही थी आपसे कि हम जो है इसको we are also going to watch कि what are the other black people just have to say about this discrimination. I mean to say that you know um, we would like to be familiar with the layperson. What has she to say about this? And when you talk about Morrison, you should also realize that when a woman is writing, she is undergoing two main pressures. Number one pressure is the racial discrimination. Number two pressure is that she as a woman has to go through the gender discrimination that the society puts her through. So writing under these two pressures how is she handling all of these things so well, and then putting so much energy in her work that the work becomes a source of change in itself too. So that is it for today. Tomorrow, in the next class, sorry, that is due on next Wednesday, we will be moving ahead, and I'll be completing this part of lecture. Along with that, we are also going to start our introduction of the novel Jazz. And we are novel Jazz की strategy ये होगी कि we are going to read certain chunks from the novel इन इस तरह से हम इसको रीड करेंगे, प्रोवाइडेड के जो है हम क्लासरूम की जो एक्सरसाइज है जिसमें हम फेस टू फेस प्रेजेंट होते हैं और जो हमारी इन पर्सन क्लासरूम्स होते हैं, विल ट्राई टू इमिटेट दैट एज मच एज वी कैन इन ऑर्डर टू इनलाइवन द एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ द क्लास. Thank you very much. So for today's that is it for today's session. Take good care of yourself. See you.